Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. It's quite a common thing wanting a character to pick up an object and just the nearest one and things like that. So I'll show how to do that kind of thing. Actually, I'll make it a cylinder because it's a little easier. So we'll make this movable like that, and I'll just tap R2 on it, and now it's on the ground. And then this will have some logic in it, so I'll just have a chip like that, group it up. Okay, and we have a puppet, so let's have a chip for when we're carrying stuff. Okay, so first let's just have a pose for when we're carrying stuff. And if we turn on puppet mirror, then we can move both arms at once. So I'm going to say we're crouched a bit and moving back, leaning back a bit because it's so heavy, and move that out, move that around. And I'm just going to make the head smaller because it's ginormous. Right, so let's go like that. And that should have enough room for the thing. Maybe lean the head back a bit more. Whoa, like that. And we want this to teleport to in the hands. So the way the teleport works is, let's hook this up first. So if you tweak the microchip, and then it has this apply to object, and link that to an object, now all the gadgets in here will apply to this object. So if we put a teleporter in here, and have it teleport to a tag over here, we need the actual sculpt to not be movable and the group to be movable, so it all moves together. And now that teleporter affects the whole group because the microchip affects the whole group, and now it's teleporting to there. So we want this to be kind of on the hands of the player, so I'll just turn this on and attach this to the hands. So let's put that in there and scope it in again, and now this has made a group that contains the hand object and the tag. And I'll just put the tag over here, and I'll actually use the grid. So I'll turn on the grid, L1 and triangle on the puppet, and now that uses the puppet's grid, so we can align things to the center. So let's scope in here and grab this and press triangle, and that snaps it to that grid. Now I can just use precise move to adjust it. Let's say it's there, and now it's teleporting to that position. And if we have it teleport and match target orientation, then the Y and the Z and the X will change to match the tags, to match the tags position. So if we tap that, so the Z is forwards, for example. So I'll just rotate this tag so it's also moving back a bit. There we go. So this is just a bit too big for the poor little guy, so let's do that. There we go. But it's kind of pushing the character back because it's actually colliding. So we want to be able to tell this that it's actually being carried, and to change some stuff about it. So first let's make sure this has a label. So this has the friend label, and we'll have this keyframe adjust the group so that it doesn't collide with the friend, and turn on the keyframe. And now it's not colliding with the puppet at all, just fine. I'm going to turn auto look off so we don't affect it with the imp. The poses, it has an idle strength pose, which has this kind of lounging around stance. We don't want that to work while we're carrying something. So this is the pose, and we'll have another one for affecting the puppet itself. So that will block the other poses. And you turn that on, and then it just sticks to the pose we've given it. Now when we walk, the other arm is kind of moving around, and that's not really ideal. So we'll affect the arm settings. So we can turn down the arm vigor Try that, and I'll just turn breathiness off. There we go, solid. So now it's moving quite nicely. And if we actually, in the pose, if we just leave the arm vigor alone, so in this pose, I was using L2 to affect the arms, and the hands are still doing whatever they like, in another keyframe actually. So in this other keyframe, I can set these by just tapping R2, and this is setting the position, so that the actual position within this group, that's where we want it to be, sort of thing. And then we turn it on. I always forget to turn these on. There we go, so it's kind of stuck there. But what if you want just a little bit of wiggle to let the arms move up and down a little bit? If we power this, instead of powering it full, which is like locking in the position to what it's stored as, we can kind of power it half. And then you get a little bit of up and down movement, but it stays roughly in that position. And you can just make it more or less to however you want. So I'll just give it a tiny bit. So a tiny bit of movement to it, but not enough to notice too much. And we can actually do this other trick. So instead of just having one tag in here, we'll have one tag on both hands, on each hand. So I'll put this here, and it will kind of average out. So if I put this on that side, and put this into the other one, and give them different names. So this is right, and this is left. So we can make this teleport to the left one, for example, but then we can also make it teleport to the right one at the same time. And it averages out and goes into the middle. Now if we turn this stuff off by just putting this to 0, then the arm movement will be just as normal, but you can see the thing that it's holding is kind of adjusting to average out the rotation and the position. So it still kind of works. So I'll probably just reduce this still by like half. And they do kind of look like they're wiggling up and down the barrel, but hopefully no one will notice. I'd also adjust stuff like the walk speed, because we're carrying something quite heavy. So we'll turn run speed to 0 and maybe make this a lower walk speed. And you've got other stuff like stridiness, make it more stridy, lower center of gravity, and more bounciness maybe. Let's see how that works. So now it's kind of a more bouncy kind of gait. And I think in the pose I'll just have his legs wider apart to kind of cope with the strain. Like that. Yeah, look at that. Cool, but this stuff should only happen while it's actually carrying stuff. So if we put all this into a chip, like that, then we can have different modes over here. So maybe in here we have mode A is just running around and stuff. No changes will happen while we're in mode A, and then when we pick something up, we'll be in mode B. So we need to tell it when to be in mode B. So maybe we press a button, for example. Actually, we want this chip with the actual we're carrying stuff chip, and then this will figure out which mode we should be in. So let's get the controller sensor, and I'll put a node over here and put square into that node, and now we just have to worry about this node. So if we press square, I'll just put it straight into B. So if a signal goes into the into the selector, then that channel will be the active one until you tell it another channel to be active. And only one of these will be active, so A will become inactive and not send a signal anymore. So when we press square, this will become active and power the carrying stuff. So maybe we want to actually power those tags as well. So let's go here. And leave those off, and then have a keyframe that turns them on. And we power this on as well. Cool. So the moment we just run around normally, and then when we press square, now we're in carrying mode. And that's about it. But we only want to do that if we're close enough to this barrel. First we want to make sure this only happens when we first press it, because that will just save a lot of problems later. So I'll put it into a signal manipulator and put it into pulse mode, which means it only sends a brief signal when you first go from not pressing square to pressing square. And then that will go through here and then set the selector. But we want to make sure we start pressing square while we're actually in range of this barrel. So let's add a tag. Just call it carryable. And we'll put this kind of in the center. Let's use that grid with L1 and triangle. There we go. And that should be in the center as well. And so should that. Cool. So now let's get a trigger zone and see if we're close enough to it. So we're looking for a tag, and the tag's name is carryable. I'm using up and down on the D-pad to cycle through all the tag names in the scene. And we want that to be in the center of the player. So let's use L1 and triangle on there. And then move this gizmo to the feet. Like that. That'll do. And probably make it a lot smaller. So we can only carry stuff if we're quite close to it. We could even make it so that it's in front like that. So we're facing it as well. Cool, so if we're detecting that carryable and we start pressing square, then we go into carry mode. So if we're like over here and we press it, nothing happens. And if we're close enough to it, or if we're facing away, nothing happens. If we're close enough to it and facing it, then square will pick it up. But if you have more than one of these, and press square, then both of them are going to teleport to it. And I'll just have it so that if I press square again, it will turn that off. And then if I just turn that off, then they'll kind of fly apart because they're actually both exactly on top of each other. So we only want the closest one to be picked up and go into the picked up mode and have all this stuff working. So let's have a selector in here so that we can have two modes again. So that the general idea of the selector is you have all these channels and only one can be active and sending a signal at a time. And you can tell it which channel to be active in different ways. So here we're going to have two modes, two channels, and one of them will be normal, so it'll just be falling around the place. The other one will be powering these teleporters and the collision keyframe change. So we want to know out of these two barrels which is the closest one. But right now we have no way of telling. So we want to use a trick. So I'll show you the trick first. So if I have an object and we have a tag and we have a follower on the object, or a lookat rotator also works, then it will follow towards that tag. But if you have another tag a bit further away, it will only follow towards the closest one. So now if we put that one closer, it will follow towards that one instead. But also you see on the face of it, it goes black because that's representing what it's sending out of tag output, which you can see light up as well. So only the closest one is kind of detected by this follower, and that tag that is being followed towards by this follower has a signal coming out of this tag output. So if we set this to have 0 speed, damping and strength, it will still detect which one is closest, and we can like move it to a different one or whatever and still serve that purpose, but it won't move this object. So we're going to do that over here. We're going to have, instead of a trigger zone, we'll have a follower looking for the barrel tag, or the carryable tag, with no speed, damping, and strength. And you can see it's got like a zone. If I make this smaller, you can actually see it's a zone. This is like the maximum distance that it looks for the tags at. So it has a spherical zone anyway. So if we use the grid again, a bit in front like that, maybe a bit smaller, that'll do. And this has a, so the tag knows that it's being targeted by this follower, but also it has this output of found target. So if you found a target close enough to pick up, then we'll use that just like we were using the trigger zone, like that. And yeah, now if we just play this in test mode over here, then we can see the gadgets and stuff while we play. So you can see that tag lit up, and now that tag lit up, but if we're facing different ways, it will go to a different one. So now we want to say it's carryable, and if this sends a signal, we know that it's the closest carryable one that we actually want to pick up. So we'll call this pickup, and only power that while it's the closest one. So if we do the same over here, like that. So while we're the closest one, we'll have this other tag, and that other tag will look for if we are in this state of carrying something. So that will have a trigger zone that looks for the tag called pickup. So if we have this, leave this trigger zone off, this is just to test stuff, so I'll move it in there, and we play time, so that one triggered and then powered this pickup tag, but this pickup tag is being ignored, it's not powered. But then if we turn this trigger zone on, then that's sending a signal, so we can use that to say go into the pickup mode, like that, but the tags aren't being powered in that thing. So now let's go back over here and put this in here. So that means if there's a carryable object in range and we press square, then we go into carrying mode, and carrying mode says to the closest barrel to be carried, go into carry mode itself. So let's put this into scene like that. So it doesn't matter where it is in the scene, we don't have to worry about moving this trigger zone or something. As long as that is on, then this will be powered and it will put it into that mode. So now we go over here and we press square and we picked up that one. And we really need a way of dropping it, so let's just do that quickly. We just copy that over there into here. So while we're carrying, then when we press square, we will go into A mode again, which is not carrying anything. When we press square, that triggers, and it's also sending a thing into there. So when it changes to powering this carrying mode, then it also receives that same press. So I'll just delay this with a timeline. So we just power it off for a brief period so that it doesn't activate right at the start. So we can have a keyframe, turn that node off. This needs to reset every time. So I'm going to put this onto once mode. That means each time it's powered, from being non-powered to powered, it will start playing from the start again. And we'll put a switch into it, which should ensure it actually plays. Because if you don't have something wired into it to power, then when the timeline gets to the end, it just turns itself off and won't turn on again. So this switch will make sure it will come on again next time. We put that delay thing over here. So I'll delay that like that. So now square, and I can walk around and press square to drop it. But the reason we can now walk through it is because it's still in that other mode because we haven't told it to drop and go into the A mode. So maybe we have another tag called drop, and that will wire into A. I'll go into A as well. So then we'll want that to be able to drop only when we're carrying it. So maybe we have it powered off, and we have a keyframe that powers it on. So then we can keep all the being carried stuff on this side, and then it can affect stuff on that side. So then we want to have this other trigger zone power when and detect the drop tag to kind of give the command to drop and go into the A state, which means it will just be collidable and so on. So now we can pick it up and drop it, and it bounced off of us, and we can walk over it and push it around and stuff. So we'll pick that up and drop it, and pick it up and drop it again, and try the other one, pick it up and drop it. I think this just needs to trigger briefly instead of being on all the time, so that if it goes close to another one at the same time, it won't suddenly pick both of them up as well. So let's do that, and just put the trigger zone into the timeline. So the timeline, oh yeah, I'm using L1 and left and right on the D-pad to zoom in kind of duration wise in the timeline. So the timeline just powers stuff while the playhead is over it, so you can put any gadget in here. So I'm just going to put the trigger zone in here, and again make it once mode and have a switch powering it. So we could actually use both of put that into there as well. There we go. So when we start carrying anything, it will briefly say pick up, and it will delay this drop signal. So let's see if that works. Cool, so that's working. And it didn't pick both of them up, so that's good. And if we go right between them, it'll just pick one of them, whichever one is actually closer.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.